Welcome back to civilization from your stint in the pokey. Well done. I heard your reaction that it only made you stronger and more determined to fight.
You know, the last contact with the outside world I had besides my little press conference there was doing your show. I did your show and then went into prison the next day, I think, the day after. So it was it was a interesting experience, very interesting experience. Very I cherished the experience.
You did? You cherish it? Why?
Well, at 70 years old, you don't get the opportunity to really challenge yourself or to be in a totally different environment. I mean, look, it's a federal prison. It wasn't a camp. It's a dangerous place. There's a lot of dangerous people there, but there are also some good people. So I had a very intense experience over 4 months, and I learned a lot. I just observed, watched, and learned, and learned so much, and quite frankly, understood 6 weeks into there how and why Kamala Harris was going to lose. So it was on the political side, it was a real awakening for me on certain areas.
Interesting. What do you mean?
Well, you see in this early voting, you see the problem. Let's take Pennsylvania for a second. African American men and Hispanic men are not voting for Kamala Harris. 5 or 6 weeks. As I started to teach civics and government to the inmates in the education department at Danbury. It was very evident because she is what they refer to her as the queen of mass incarcerations. And President Trump came with this First Step Act, which really would incentivize nonviolent drug dealers, which are, you have a lot of Hispanic and young African American men there, to get into that system and to try to better themselves, have a flawless record in prison, and they can cut their sentences up to half. You know, she hasn't, you know, the Biden regime hasn't really implemented any of it, almost none of it. And they see her as not deporting the really hardened criminal drug dealers coming in from the cartels. And that they're actually starting to show up in prisons now, and they're very violent and very dangerous. So the prisons are starting to get those guys, yet the First Step Act, which President Trump did it, and the reason that Kamala Harris and Biden are not doing it, and the inmates know that, it's a political win for Trump. It's a huge win. So I found out while I was there, not that these guys are going to vote for Trump. I think up to 30%, maybe African-American men, maybe 50% Hispanic would actually vote for Trump. But she's not going to get an African-American male or Hispanic vote. And you see the numbers coming out of Pennsylvania where it's in free fall. I think the same in Wisconsin and Michigan. So she has a massive problem with their coalition that I was able to really learn about and really understand. You know, between the jobs, you know, they blamed them for the illegal alien invasion, and particularly in the cities where jobs, the wages have come down because what they try to do from the Federal Reserve and the Biden regime, this is what they did. This is why Wall Street loves it. Wall Street doesn't want one person deported, not one. And I learned that in this prison from young Black and Hispanic inmates. And it's all played out. That's why, and the only statement I put out, 26 September, I put out a pretty long statement, said victory's at hand. And I walked through the politics of joy to her pivot to the, you know, night falls on America with fascism. It wasn't going to work. But that the mass incarcerations, that Black men are not going to vote for her. Hispanic men are not going to vote for her. And if they don't vote for her, she's not going to be president of the United States. There's not enough Taylor Swift.
They don't have to vote for Trump, but if they don't come out and they lower her percentage of the Black vote, it hurts just as badly. If
they vote for Trump, it's a two-bagger. If they just don't vote for her, it's a one-bagger. It's killer. There's not enough Swifties out there to make that up. And I think this is going to play out. If we are to win this, I think it's going to be one of the biggest elements of it.
Okay, so back up and explain what you mean when you say you see those numbers coming out of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, and I think you may have said Georgia. Like, what are you seeing specifically? Because most of us have not been following the data as closely as you.
Well, it was to build a firewall. Let's say that they had 1.7 million early votes or 1.5 million early votes in 2020. They have like 700,000, 800,000. They're 700,000 short of where they were in 2020. They haven't built a firewall. The gap, the starting gap in the hole is only 300,000 votes, 350,000 votes. It was over 1.1 million in 2020. Those 700,000 votes, and let me be very specific about
where.
This.
Can you say where? And do you just mean the Black vote, or
no? In the whole Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right now, if you look at the data, they are they've had 700,000 fewer early votes than they had before, and these were low propensity voters that voted because of the pandemic. Now remember, in 2020, that number was always, I felt fishy, because throughout the country, we picked up 15 House seats in 2020. We picked up 15 House seats against Nancy Pelosi. We netted 12 because we lost a couple. We won 15 House seats. You're telling me that Biden got 81 million votes where Obama just got 60. So it's 15 million more votes than Obama. And we picked up 15 House seats. It just always seemed fishy. In 22, the House, in winning the House, let's leave that aside, the individuals. If you look at the popular vote, we won the popular vote, Republicans, by 5 or 6 million votes for the House. Those low propensity voters didn't show up. And they said, well, Steve, they won't vote for House races. They only hate Trump. They only show up. In Pennsylvania, there's 750 or 800,000 votes short of where they were in 2020. It's the same crowd. It's this low propensity voter. And they're not going to show up on Tuesday. These guys are low propensity. They vote early. And quite frankly, they missed 22, and they're going to miss now. And they missed early voting. So, and if you look if you go into the depth of that, I think it's 80,000 males in Philadelphia area. Black men have not voted, who would normally have voted. They've not voted. So the numbers that's why she's going back to Philadelphia. Her numbers coming out of here are horrific. She has done better with women. She has done better with suburban women. She's done better with the credential class, college-educated women. But their basic coalition's not coming together. That's why. And tomorrow we have to represent, but here's what we know on the eve of battle. They do not have a firewall anywhere. They don't have a firewall in North Carolina. There's no firewall in Pennsylvania. There's no firewall in Nevada. There's no firewall in Arizona. In fact, there's a reverse in some of these. They have no firewalls. So this is hand-to-hand combat tomorrow in delivering game day voters. This is why she's going back and forth between Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, she's going to Allentown, which is a Hispanic majority town. She's going to Philadelphia. She's going back to core constituencies, not try to expand, to try to get the coalition together. That's not what Trump's doing right now. So I think, look, it's all about delivery tomorrow, but the early vote numbers are catastrophic. Part of this, Megyn, which they don't talk about, is what the architecture of the electorate is very different today than it was in 2020 or even 2016. The voter registration of people like Scott Presler and all of these small grassroots groups that had no money and no support have really dramatically changed what is the architecture of the electorate that will be there tomorrow. It's much more heavily weighted Republican. And those people that register, although they're low propensity because they just register, they're going to vote, and they ain't going to vote for Nikki Haley's candidate, Kamala Harris, or Liz Cheney's candidate, Kamala Harris. They're going to vote for Donald Trump.
Now, the thing that's making a lot of people nervous on the right, two things: the Iowa poll by Ann Seltzer, Des Moines Register, and secondly, this news out of Pennsylvania, citing here from NBC, that they've had a ton of new registered voters who are Democrat women, I should say, Democrat women. Democrats, 55,000 total new voters. Republicans, 32.5 thousand total new voters. So they're saying that the Democrat women are outpacing all the other voting groups in terms of their new registered voters who have filed early vote, I think. So they're feeling very confident about Pennsylvania because of that. And I think a lot of Republicans are worried about that. You saw Charlie Kirk tweet out, if these guys stay on their couches, she's going to win. Get up, get to the polls. If you don't want Kamala Harris as the president, get out. And I think he was specifically talking about Pennsylvania. So can you address first Pennsylvania, and then we'll talk about that Iowa poll?
Yeah, look, if we don't, on the eve of this, we've perfectly positioned this. If you get out and you're a force multiplier, not just you have to own your own vote, but you also have to bring the people the 10 in your circle, or you have to go and help canvass today. Today's still the most active day for political work. In between interviews, I'm giving motivational talks to people all day long. You have to do that. This is all in play. We have no guarantees of anything here. And yes, they have, towards the end, signed up women, and you have to assume the female is an anti-patriarchy, anti-Trump vote. And they've done a solid job on that. Now, some of the patriarchs, the patriarchy inside their own coalition is not showing up for them. But that means tomorrow you have to represent, and you have to be a force multiplier. It's all on the field. And my concern has been from the beginning the complacency, potential complacency. What do I mean by that? In 2016, you could argue that Hillary Clinton lost as much as we won. Because as you know, you remember the exit polls where we were losing, we snuck up on them. Every day they were blowing me up on Morning Joe. Why is he spending time in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania? He's not going to win these. You got to win Ohio and these other states, and just to get it close.
Can I tell you something, Steve? Can I tell you something?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I got to tell you something. It's a crazy story. So on election night in 2016, we sat down as the anchors and producers and the behind-the-scenes teams with the decision desk people. Arnon, Michigan, and all those guys who ran the decision desk for Fox. As we did on every election cycle. We had done it in 2012, we'd done it in 2008, and all the midterms. So we sat down on 2016, and it's 5 o'clock at night when you have this meeting. They've just gotten the first big round of exit poll data where their people have been in a locked box pouring through it all day. They're not allowed to communicate outside of their locked box. And finally, they're released, and they can go home to their news organizations and tell you how things look. And it's a fun moment because as the news anchor, you get your first, secret look-see into how the vote is looking. And then you go out in the air and you're not allowed to say what you've been told. But with a wink and a nod, you can kind of suggest to the audience how things are looking. It's not until the actual vote starts coming in and the polls close that you are allowed to speak about what you know. But I will never forget, Steve, at 5 o'clock in that meeting with Fox News in 2016, Arnon, Michigan said, it's going to be a very good night for Hillary Clinton. And all the data they had gotten so far was super pro-Hillary. And, what did I know? I'm listening to Arnon. He knew a lot more about it than I did. And so when we went out on the air that night, we 100% had been led to believe this was going to be her night. So you are right. He did sneak up and take it.
Hey, hang on. It gets worse. So at 5 o'clock, we get it leaked from one of the news sources. And, I've been telling Trump 100% metaphysical certitude. We're going to get this. We got to spin of the North thing. Ma'am, we are, I think, up by 2 points in Ohio, or even in Ohio, up by 2 points in Iowa. We're getting blown out everywhere. It's almost a 350 to 400 electoral vote landslide. And I look at Jared. We're standing on a balcony, freezing with the wind, and then we look, and I said, could we have screwed this? Are we this far off with that thing? And Jared goes, hang on a second. He says, let me call Drudge. And so we called Drudge, and Drudge at that time was ally. We called Drudge, and we're on the blower, and we go, and Drudge had just seen him too. And he goes, screw this. This is corporate media. This is all gun deck. They don't know what they're talking about. It's all a lie. Don't worry about it. So we called then candidate Trump, and we told him. We said, hey, look, Drudge says this. We think we got this. Our numbers, we can pull this off. And he said, hey, look, we left everything on the field, and let's just power through it. But I got to tell you, Megyn, at 5 o'clock at night, when they gave us those exit polls, first off, she was going to be named president at 9 o'clock at night. There was a short night, and we were getting blown out everywhere. But it shows you, and this is even for tomorrow, it's about people showing up. Obviously, people were intimidated, didn't want to say they voted for Trump to the exit poll guys because they're very good. That's what I'm thinking now is that you've got to play. You got to go through the tape. What happened is Robbie Mook and the people in Brooklyn, as you remember, were very arrogant. They never sent her to Wisconsin. She never really went to Michigan. Right. Except to Detroit. They just had this arrogance that they were trying to go to Arizona and Georgia and expanded. They wanted to get 350 or 400 electoral votes. They give her a mandate. They dismissed us. They didn't take it seriously. And they didn't see where the country was.
You know how much my family and I love our dogs, right? I can't even imagine life without them. They've got a great life, but some dogs are not so lucky. And that's why I'm so glad to tell you about Delta Rescue. It's the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They have rescued thousands of dogs, plus cats and horses too. They provide all the animals with shelter, safety, and most of all, love. And they've been doing it for more than 45 years now. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions, and giving can bring tax benefits too. Speak with your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need. And check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more. We love our Thunder in Strudwick, but would like for other dogs who need love to find it too. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.